we are live on Facebook, and this will be going out also on YouTube at some point in the future. So may I welcome everybody who's attending with our Zoom meeting tonight. I'm Brian Jacobs. I'm running organizing the meetings for London Vegans. And we have a meeting usually once a month online, but also some occasional meetings in London. So you're very welcome to all of you for attending tonight and those who are watching subsequently. It's my great pleasure to introduce our guest speakers for this evening. They are over in the southwest of England. It's Tracey and Simon, with the West is part of their name, but it's Tracey and Simon from Word Foresters. And you may not have heard that organization before. They're going to tell you more about it. It's about climate change. It's about veganism. I'm going to hand you over to them. If you have any questions, please do hold on to them. You can send them via the chat box to me, and we'll take the questions right at the end of the meeting. Without further ado, Tracey and Simon, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much. And I do have a lovely link to being London Vegans, because I am vegan and I was born in the East End in a very long time ago. I feel quite old. But yes, I am London vegan. And when we do go to London, it's always nice to try and seek out a new venue. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for asking us to have a chat tonight. Lots to cover that kind of spans about a decade, doesn't it? Just over a decade.
Yeah.
Since Simon and I got together. We are second time arounders. And that's sort of where this story begins. Got married in 2012 and we didn't need stuff, did we? Didn't want stuff. We decided to have a wedding forest planted in Kenya. And we had 150 trees planted in Kenya, which was really splendid, which we thought we'd never ever see. Then we were publishers shortly after that. And we decided to create a literary prize, a writing competition, which went on for 5 years and planted several thousand trees after that. It was an international competition, and we had we had entries from
out of the 190 something countries. There were over 100 countries submitted entries.
It was, and the great thing about it was everybody that entered had a tree planted in their name. Every entry had a tree planted. So that's kind of the tree thing. That's sort of where it started. And by the third year of the Magic Oxygen Literary Prize, which doesn't run anymore, by the way, by the third year of that, we knew we needed to found a charity. We needed to formalize what we were doing and scale up our operation. So yeah, that's kind of the back bit before this bit. But now it's time to do a share screen and hopefully bring in some nice graphics to just illustrate what we do. Bear with. Isn't that the words? Bear with? Bear with. I never saw that program, by the way, but I understand that was from, what was it from? Bear with?
Miranda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that is a word for, oh, by the way, we met doing radio, Simon and I. So we used to do loads of radio programs. We've done loads, thousands of programs over the years, but we have this kind of banter thing going on. And I just think, you know, presentations are lovely, but you should have a bit of banter as well. So we'll
probably frequently result in me saying what she said.
But, I promise to not talk so much. But that is our logo. I'm very, very proud of this logo. It has 4 rings, not like the Olympic rings, but 4 rings. And they're all, as you can see, interconnected. Word Forest is the name of the organization because, as I just said, we were kind of, the charity was sort of born from the literary competition. You know, it was born from creative writing and creative words. And one of the central tenets of our charity is education. So we sort of thought, well, words is good. And of course, the forest, so Word Forest. And the 4 bits to it, we will explain in the coming slides. Simon.
Yeah. As Tracey said, we're second time arounders. We're based in Southwest, as Brian mentioned, in a little tiny village that's a bit like one that would appear on Midsummer Murders.
Yes.
It's 350 people in the village, but they have a local magazine that's about 70 pages long each month. So there's a lot going on here, a lot of very, very busy people.
And some good environmentalists in it.
Some good environmentalists. And we have discovered, and we'll talk a little bit later about this, that there are a few vegans around, possibly more than the national percentage.
Yeah.
So we founded Word Forest to try and sort out some climate issues. We're called ourselves environmentalists forever. And it is that has caused us, the main reason that's caused us to become vegan. So as it says there, we founded Word Forest in 2017. And I don't know if anybody's ever founded a charity, but the application form is an absolute nightmare to fill in. It was 78 pages. And when you get it wrong, the Charity Commission just send it back and say, no, change your objects. And you have to work out exactly what do they mean? What's wrong with it? But we eventually got it right. And in 2017, we got our number to be a proper charity.
As I said, these are the 4 bits that we do. They link together in such obvious ways once you realize why they exist. So you'll probably be aware of lots of great environmental projects that are planting trees in a variety of ways. Some might be spitting seed balls into the ground. I would say I'm sure some of them will take, and some of them are probably really good, but you cannot beat a person planting a sapling, basically growing a sapling from a seed in the first instance, being paid to plant that sapling, being paid to get it in the ground, and being paid to nurture it so that it gets its tap roots down and it can then survive. That's critical. So in order to do the plant trees and grow to maturity, we need women's empowerment. So the women in Kenya are generally the ones who predominantly do the tree planting. That's not squashing the men at all. It's just that it tends to be a woman-based activity. So by giving women empowerment in a variety of ways, which we'll cover as we go a little further on, you then support the workforce. That's brilliant. Facilitating education is a critical part of that, because many of the women never had an opportunity to go to school at all. We work in very rural locations in Kenya, don't we? And poverty is rife. It's a really it's a very common thing. So we were talking about women's empowerment. So planting trees, women's empowerment, 2 critical bits that work together. Facilitating education, because the women, I was just saying, if a family in a rural location with not a great deal of money has a boy and a girl, they'll favour sending the boy to school. It still costs them a little bit of money to send their children to school. They need to buy a uniform and get them some money for food and so on. So girls are generally just pushed to the side. So part of our women's empowerment program involves, well, everything from basic literacy, basic numeracy, ABC 1, 2, 3, through to the climate emergency, what it is, how they can help, growing trees.
Lots of business ideas. We, for example, have paid for somebody to come and teach them how to make mats that they can sell at hotels.
How to do things.
How to make shoes.
The list goes on, I kid you not, but it's income generation, which is vital. That all comes in nicely with facilitate education. And the building schools, well, that's basically because, again, most schools in rural Kenya are very poorly supported by the government, central government. In many cases, far too many cases, a school will consist of mud hut classrooms in very, very poor condition. And in some cases, they'll actually just take place under a tree, which is an exhausting place to teach. It's very windy areas as well, and the teachers have to shout. They've got constant sore throats. So the simple solution for that is build solid stone schools and classrooms, which of course can be used by the children in the day and adults in the community after school hours. So those 4 things, I'm sure you can understand now, work really well. One of our corporate partners coined the phrase, what you've done is you've created a virtuous circle, which I think is a really lovely way to put it. But it's true. It sounds a bit, bit out there, but it is absolutely true. So that's the 4 bits of what we do.
I get a very simple slide now. It's a picture of one of our lovely women in Garashi in Kenya, which is down near the Indian Ocean, about 30 kilometers in from a town called Malindi, which you may or may not have heard of, but you most likely will have heard of Mombasa, which is about 60 kilometers further south. And she's planting a little sapling. They can't just stick a spade in and put the sapling in a split in the soil, because the soil is so very dry, and even this is very good soil, but it is extremely dry. They have to cut a quite deep hole and put the plant in there, put the seedling in there. And you can see there's lots of cut off green matter there. That will form a mulch that they put around the tree to help keep the moisture in. Sticking it in a hole like that means that when they pour the water on it, it doesn't just run away on the ground and evaporate. We do have quite a lot of women have planted trees. We are trying to encourage the men to as well. We have a new male initiative, which is to get the men to plant some trees, and we pay them exactly the same amount of money. Just because they're men, they don't get more, which I'm sure is common sense to most people, but it still seems that in Kenya, the men are favoured. They get higher wages for the same job.
We believe in equality all across the board, but that for another discussion, I think. So that's a really nice picture of one of those saplings getting in the ground. Going on beyond that, that's the kind of classroom we built. This one was built, I think, at Kundeni Primary School.
I think it's Kundeni's colours, yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid stone building. It's actually built to a government specification for classrooms. The bars on the window are not to keep the kids in, they're to keep the baboons out and any other creatures that can go in and trash any, small resources the children might have and the teachers might have. Actually, we've always, I think beyond the first classroom we've always built a concrete cupboard into the back wall of the classroom as well, which has, so they can put their things away, because there aren't filing cabinets and things of that nature. But anyway, the purple band at the top, it generally represents the blouses or the shirts the girls and boys are wearing, and the green is the bottom half of their uniform, so skirts and shorts. And it's a really nice way to identify with the classrooms that they have. And I can tell you, walking into a solid stone classroom after standing in a mud hut one, the temperature drops considerably. The acoustics are amazing. Teachers don't have those sore throats anymore, and they are just fabulous rooms to be in, as you will see a little bit later on in our presentation.
Yeah, you will notice there's no roof on that one. They haven't finished the roof.
That was next.
We have just been putting straight corrugated iron roofs on. And then I watched a programme which was talking about India painting the roofs of their buildings white. So we did an experiment with one of our teaching areas where we got them to paint the roof white before they put it up there. And it dropped the temperature by 6 degrees Celsius.
Even more.
Just by having a white roof. So that, on top of having a roof anyway, makes them much easier to actually teach in.
Indeed it does. This is a beautiful picture with Joy and Benina. They are over in Rusinga Island, which is in the far west of Kenya on Lake Victoria. And that is Benina's first literacy lesson. It could have been a numeracy one, I'm not sure, but it was the first lessons they ever did. They had a tutor. Joy is on the right hand side. She's the facilitator of the group. And you might not realize but if you've never held a pen or pencil in your hand, which of course, if you can't read or write, you wouldn't, you don't actually have the muscular control. You haven't exercised those muscles enough to write. So one of the first things they do is they'll have dots, like join the dots. And that is done so that they can literally, their fingers and their hands can get used to holding a pencil. And that's what Joy is doing. And that's just quite amazing. Once the women can, of course, read and write, the world is their oyster. So actually, that's not a good, it's not a good vegan analogy, isn't it? I need another one, don't I? The world is their fish-free oyster. That's what we should do. Basically, you can count out a money exchange. If you've got something to sell, you're not going to be ripped off because you can't do the counting. You can create things, make things, and have little signs with the prices on. The list is just endless. I mean, it really, really is. So basic literacy and numeracy are awesome, but as are lots of the other lessons that we, our team over in Kenya, are able to facilitate. And finally,
this is the same group of Mothers of the Forest in Rusinga Island. And we're not only getting them to plant trees, we also get them to learn things like syntropic agroforestry, which is a great big couple of words that mean planting crops in amongst the trees. It's a very good way of maximizing your crop yield. So these women have been taught to not just plant trees or plant crops, but intermix the two. It increases the yield of both.
It does. And I think, in fact, at the back of that shot, which is very poor in quality, and I apologize for that, but We don't have big tech over there. We have people that have got a few phones. So these are just taken on phones and blown up so you can kind of get an idea. But behind the group, you'll see there's stuff on the ground. One of the syntropic agroforestry principles is chop and drop. So you chop down the bits that you need to trim off of your tree and you leave them on the ground. So they act as a mulch. They are weed preventers. They are all the nutrients go back down into the soil. And it's just a really clever thing to do. So yeah, chop and drop, syntropic agroforestry. I love it.
Okay, so we're trying to, as it says, mitigate global heating. We've gone beyond global warming. And in actual fact, I'm going to go on to the next slide because Mr. Guterres. Oh, no, this is your one.
Yeah. We the slide you're thinking about is the next one along. Basically, yeah, we've shifted on from that. We are at global boiling now, or as Greta terms it, the house is on fire. How right she is. And this slide, I think, shows it quite nicely or horribly, depending on how you want to think about it. I used this in a presentation last month, and it said May 2024 is the 12th consecutive month that has seen record-breaking high temperatures around the globe, which is why that chart goes up to May. Well, of course, here we are. We've turned into July. We're almost at the end of July. June has done the same thing. In fact, we have broken through the 1.5 degrees Celsius guardrail that so many climate scientists have said, let's really not do that. Let's try and keep it down. Well, we've gone beyond it. So we are at 1.63 has been registered since this graph was made. And I wonder what will occur when we turn into August. What will they make of July? I suspect it's going to be in the same state. It's very, very scary territory.
And the slide I was expecting is Mr. Antonio Guterres saying we're in the era of global boiling. And it all sounds really very, very scary. If you follow any of the science, it is quite terrifying where we're heading. However, we still have hope.
Yes,
that
we are
if we do all the right things.
We're eco-optimists.
Yeah,
I think
you have to be.
I think if we weren't, we wouldn't be doing what we do.
No.
You know, we've been at our desks since before 9 o'clock this morning. We stopped for about 20 minutes and we've carried on all the way through to this meeting. So I've never done a job so fulfilling in my entire life. I have a great personal sense of responsibility for evoking positive change to the best of my ability. I've got a bunch of Oxford undergrads under my wing, mostly, who are interning with us. We've been working on a huge set of projects. You know, we have to do all we can. We are at that film
you could have
title.
a phrase. We need to do everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah, we do.
You could make a film with that title.
You could.
Okay, so
Speaking of films, that woman there is, yes, Kate Winslet. Or actually on my screen, it's got Brian Jacobs over the front of Kate Winslet, but I'm sure on yours it looks different. Somehow we managed to get Kate Winslet to narrate a documentary that I fundraised for in our early years. I knew that my biggest challenge was going to be conveying how important it is to plant trees in the tropics, because they grow 10 times faster than anywhere else on the planet, with the exception, of course, of further around on near the equator. 10 times faster. And an example of that would be in a mango tree. At 5 years old, a mango tree is 12 feet tall and laden with fruit. And I'm telling you, they're not like the mangoes you get in Waitrose or Tesco's or anywhere else. They are big. And a mango tree can keep on producing fruit for, I mean, a mango tree can last for sort of 300 years. So if you get trees in the ground that, number one, grow super quick, fantastic. Number two, are providing food. We do favour food-bearing trees, so food, fruit, nut, and medicine trees. Yeah, when I say food trees, one of my particular favourites is the moringa, and moringa is like spinach on a tree. Like, I want a moringa tree in my garden. I really do. It's gorgeous. So all of those things are feeding people. So we're giving not just the climate a run for its money, but we're giving, you know, putting a kick in the teeth of hunger, poverty, and malnutrition as well. So it's a lot to convey. So we had a film shot by an amazing guy called Tim Tyson Short, who'd worked in Africa and worked with very many charities around the world. And yeah, she agreed to narrate it, which was brilliant. But it's a big documentary. It's a 40-minute documentary. So we've got a nice little 12-minute version, which, if you'll permit us, we will give you a proper...
We need to hand over to Brian
We
to
do.
actually do the video.
We do.
The QR code takes you straight there, so
It
you could
does.
just photograph it
It does.
and then share it with your friends.
Please do that. Please take a photo of that QR code, because you can say to a friend, do you know what? I heard this great charity the other night. Take a picture of this and watch this little 12-minute video. It is so powerful, but obviously it's the short version, and you'll meet the most incredible people. I think they are the most important people on the planet right now, because they have the power to help pull us out of this climate emergency. And I mean that absolutely wholeheartedly. So enjoy the film.
This is the story of a land that has suffered, that has been stripped of its bounty, by a people struggling to survive in a changing world. This is a story about climate change and how the relationship between two groups of people 5,000 miles apart is improving each other's lives. This is a story about a community that is helping itself, that is open to change and wants to help the world beyond its horizons. It's also a story that is continuing to unfold. We invited 25 experts from across Kenya, Uganda, England and Wales to share best practice for protecting and expanding the forests.
Tell me how deep it should be.
To offset the CO2 for their travel, they each planted a tree.
I'm now digging a hole to grow a tree.
I'm planting 2,000 trees for my birthday come next month.
This is my 4,508 trees that I've planted on my own.
As Word Forest Organisation, we've had the planting of over 40,000 trees so far.
Though it's not enough, but I think it's going to sink part of the carbon that I've created.
This sapling was planted in the Bore Green Umbrella main nursery.
It's amazing seeing trees going into the ground and showing people what £2.50 does. It buys these saplings. There's 110,000 saplings down there to choose from, and each of them, in a tiny handful of years, about 5 years, will have absorbed about 1/4 of a tonne of CO2. Every time somebody helps us to put a tree in the ground, we're not just planting a tree, we are planting a legacy. These things will be here, potentially, for hundreds of years. And like after about 5 years, a mango tree will give you 100 pieces of fruit. That will just keep going on.
But this is a hard and uncompromising land. Dry for 9 months and very wet for 3. Planting trees is not as straightforward as just putting them in the ground.
You know, I normally say tree growing is different from tree planting. Growing trees it's like I normally use the example of giving birth. When you give birth, you don't leave your kid just unattended. So when you grow trees, you really take care of the tree from the seedling till it grows to maturity. And I'm very happy that the community is buying the idea of growing those trees so that they can mature, and they are benefiting from slowing down the climate change, which is really, really affecting them.
My name is Evelyn Jeffa, and I am the facilitator of the Mothers of the Forest here at the Bore Forest Community Center. The Mothers of the Forest are creating awareness on climate change. We have 2 meetings in a month. The World Forest Organization sponsors us so that we can be able to continue doing what we are doing.
The Mothers of the Forest have formed an incredible group, giving each mother 800 shillings, just over £6, to plant 4 saplings a month ensures they have enough to keep their family for a week. This means they don't turn to charcoal production to make money. They also, in turn, encourage the community to plant trees. Within the first year of existence, they have their own micro-banking system, fresh water kiosks, and social support network. This week, they are starting literacy and numeracy lessons. Despite their incredible resourcefulness, many of these women never went to school. There are 40 mothers of the forest. Some of them walk for up to 2 hours to get to the centre. They meet twice a month, which gives the women a rare opportunity to come together, share best practices for looking after the forest, and to learn new skills.
Okay, MOFA, Mothers of the Forest Academy.
An additional benefit of the newly formed academy is that their children have a chance to attend the lessons with their mothers, giving them a head start for future learning. For some, it was their first opportunity to even hold a pencil.
Okay, so this is Harusi, and Harusi has never gotten the chance to go to school, and she doesn't know how to read or write. She doesn't even know how to hold a pencil properly, so it's a bit of a challenge for her. This makes me really value education.
With just a small amount of funding from the Word Forest, the Mothers of the Forest has become a self-sustaining school that educates itself. 2 hours of learning like this is going to have a massive impact on these women's lives. If you educate a mother, you educate a community.
So these are the first words that they're actually writing. Wow. Ni nzuri sana kweli.
Sijui gari inaenda wapi, sijui kusoma, mpaka nifanye kuuliza mtu hii gari inaenda wapi. Kwa hivyo inanisaidia.
For Joyce, she is so excited to know how to read and write because it's a challenge for her when she's traveling and she doesn't know where she's going. She doesn't know how to read the signboards. So she's really looking forward to reading and writing because at least finally she'll be able to read the signboards on the road. That's really nice. This is Esther's farm. We call it shamba in Swahili. And Esther has planted 8 acres of cashew nuts and mango trees. All the trees here that you're seeing here are actually 4 years old. The mangoes produce fruit on the 5th year, so they are quite young. We have this cashew nut. No, we're not going to pluck it. Okay, this is really, really small. It's going to take another 3 months to mature up. This one is coming up slowly. And we have one lovely ripe one here. And the cashew nuts themselves, once they're dried, they can be sold in the local market. Some of them are exported. And it's a really good source of income for the locals around here. Esther used to burn charcoal. This land was full of trees and she had cut them down because of burning charcoal. And after that, after all the trees were gone, she had no other source of income. So she decided to plant the cashew nut trees and the mango trees, and now they have become a source of income. And they keep on producing fruit yearly and yearly. So she doesn't have to worry about her income anymore. 4 years' time, this place will have transformed. You wouldn't recognize it. It will be a totally different place with all the trees being so leafy and shady. All the mothers of the forest, we've encouraged them to really plant, especially the cashew nut tree and the mango tree. We also have others planting the moringa and the neem tree. Most of the mothers have not less than 100 trees. Not less than 100 trees, each mother. 40 of us, that's quite a few trees. I'm so proud because the one that we're leaving for our children is much, much better because we're really, really planting more trees. And that makes me happy.
Hi, this is our school. We want to become friends with others.
So this is our very, very first twinning with Michael Jeffers School, the Gracious Junior Academy, and a Montessori school in North Somerset. And I cannot tell you how excited we are. We know these children. This is a great opportunity for the kids.
Yeah, this is called Gracious Children's Center, and we have children from the less fortunate families and
most of them, their families are very poor and some are single parented. So we just brought them here so that they can get education just like the other children in other schools and from very privileged families. They can share information from the other school and they will get to understand each other's life patterns and how the culture here in Kenya is and how the culture is in England. Really, they are going to learn a lot of things in their life. All over the world can see that we have children who in the future are going to conserve environment.
Klein Kinderschool in Somerset stands to learn so much from this twinning. Here is a school that has zero truancy level and, despite its lack of resources and support, is succeeding in producing students that want to learn, speak 2 languages and have dance moves and songs that are off the scale. What's not to like? It is only education that will break this cycle of poverty. But even the schools are poor here. So building classrooms in return for planting trees is such a perfect combination.
We are here at Amkenny School. This is one of many schools that I've seen in this condition. Sticks and mud just really being held together. Children squashed into very cramped conditions. Desks and chairs that are being held together on a wing and a prayer. The new classroom is going to make such a difference. It does make such a difference to their learning. We were talking to the headmaster at Kundeni Primary the other day. Their exam results have gone up by 14 percentage points because they've been in a calm, quiet and cool environment to learn. And that's what's going to happen here. It's what's happening at all of the other schools that we've built classrooms in. This is the latest classroom that we've built. It's phenomenal to be here because the last 8 classrooms that we've done, we've only seen photographs and videos.
They've built this classroom in record speed because they knew we were coming over, and it's still being painted as we're here.
So this is absolutely the pinnacle of our work. Planting the trees is important, but we actually need to support the people who are doing the planting. And the way we do that is by facilitating education. And building classrooms is just one of the simple ways of doing it. Oh, it just feels so cool. When you walk in from outside, you've made these classrooms work so well.
So this is wonderful, so that these children can learn in a very good environment that is conducive for learning and actually improve their performance.
Because the new classes are well structured, the walls are strong, unlike the ones we have, which are broken. The children's marks will be better because the children will be able to do a lot of work during bad weather conditions.
If we take care of the children, the whole community will change.
Creating awareness on climate change, I mean, it's something that has been talked about so many times, but no one has really been able to get a whole community together.
Tracey and Simon had a dream, and they looked for the right people to accomplish their dream.
Why would they come all the way here to come and plant trees or to come and pay us to plant trees? But then once I understood that the same trees that we plant are the same trees that are giving them oxygen, I got the idea. So it's a win-win situation.
And I hope you'll perhaps look at the longer documentary itself. So we are leaving no environmental stones unturned. We can't just do the one thing. I think Word Forest has taken it on its shoulders to try and encourage people to be better environmentalists. Would you agree?
Indeed. Not only in Kenya, but in the UK as well. It's our educational message that we try to get out. And as most people in this group will probably be aware, switching to a plant-based diet is a massive thing for helping the environment. And we're not shy about talking about that.
No, and we speak about it in really positive terms because it's the only way to speak about it, in my opinion. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. When they ask Tracey if she uses the carrot or the stick, she says, no, I like to use the carrot stick. And if it's dipped in hummus, it's even better.
That's true. I forgot that line. I forgot where I was going to go. Right, no environmental stones unturned. Jump onto the next slide, and we'll tell them some of the things that we're focusing on. So, permaculture. Permaculture is probably one of our big topics at the moment over in Kenya, to facilitating the education thereof. If you're not familiar with permaculture, basically it's a land management system, a growing system, if you like, organic. It works with Mother Nature rather than against it. It doesn't like pesticides and chemicals. It finds natural ways to do stuff. And it is the best thing that can be. It was born from Australia, born out of Australia. So a place that has, some heat problems. And it's kind of worldwide, it's global, but each country's lessons on permaculture are sort of tailored to wherever they are. So we've facilitated the education and the training of some of our team in permaculture with permaculture design courses and advanced permaculture design courses as well. And at the moment, I think I mentioned I've got some Oxford undergrads working with me. We have a 220-page document that basically talks about the 12 principles of permaculture, and we've broken them. They have worked just amazingly. They've broken them down into lesson plans so that our team can get them passed out to schools, the chiefs, teachers. We can have a course that is teaching teachers about permaculture. Why? Because it's basically growing plant-based food. Not that people in rural Kenya have a great deal of live animals. They don't have many cows and goats. Everyone's struggling to survive. So if you've got any animals at all, they're going to be probably taking some of the food that you can have yourself. So it's not really a thing in our area, the areas that we're working in. They are mainly plant-based, plant eaters, the communities that we work with. But we have connected with an incredible Kenyan charity called Quality Life Without, I always forget this name because it's such a big name. Quality Life Without Borders. This is a Kenyan educational team who go across Kenya teaching in schools and other organizations about vegan food. It's like, I just couldn't believe it when I came across them. They are amazing. They sent us a fantastic 100 recipe via PDF, a 100 recipe book full of traditional cultural favorites of Kenyan foods with vegan styling. And our team are now, when they have meetings, when they have groups of people in, they only serve plant-based food. We have nailed it to the wall over there. They understand the bigger principles of it. And understanding permaculture is helping to really embed that. It also looks at things like drought-resistant crops and things of that nature. So it's just, permaculture has just been a godsend. So yeah, it all starts with good food, inspiration and education. And my word, is it working?
So in our 7 years, we built a lot of classrooms. And then 2 years ago, we managed to purchase a bit of land. And we've established a permaculture teaching centre. And in it, Tracey likes to call the building where they do all the teaching the edible classroom. The classroom itself is not edible, but almost everything we teach in there is to do with food production. It's to do with how to get your tomatoes to grow better, how to learn the Three Sisters planting system, which you may have heard of. It's basically a Native American system.
That's with corn.
Yeah, corn or maize, and a bean growing up the corn or maize, which fixes nitrogen, which makes the corn or maize grow better. And then a squash or some kind of pumpkin on the ground, which shelters the ground from the sun, so it uses less moisture, and all three grow better together.
They do.
We teach those kind of things.
And also the other thing that we do there is if it's teaching or facilitating the teaching of an income generation idea, ultimately that's going to put food on the table. So for me, the best name for that classroom was the edible classroom. Food, 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 food. If you've got food security and water security, then you can do anything. And what we need is that help to get those trees in the ground. So we are really proud of the edible classroom. It is quite an awesome space. Yeah, so that's all happening over there. But over here, we're thinking, what else can we do? You know, we've always thought, what can we do? What can we do? By the way, that documentary with Kate Winslet, oh, we had it all worked out. Our plan was to use the whole documentary and have community groups like yourselves and various other green groups put the film on, and then we do a Q&A either in person or virtually at the end of it, and we could get some money in a pot, have some nice vegan food, because when we did our inaugural showing of that film, we had loads of vegan food. We raised about £2,000 on that first showing in the Marine Theatre in Lyme Regis, and we thought, great, let's just replicate that all over the country. And then it came out at the end of
2019, the beginning of 2020. So as you're all aware, we don't even need to mention it. 2020 was a bit of a bust. But we are now moved from Lyme Regis and we're doing other things. And one of the things we're doing, which may be of interest to you, if ever you're down in Sidmouth, is we have a poetry evening.
We do.
Tracey mentioned, I can't remember whether it was to the whole group or just to Brian, that we started together on hospital radio. So we do like our words and we like a little bit of poetry. So we run this little event once a month where you can come to an open mic. I'm sure there are people amongst your members of the London Vegans who also like words and also go to open mic evenings. So those kind of things, we raise a little bit of money.
We do, and we sell vegan food, which is great. So that's Wordplay, which happens once a month, and we love it. But the big one, the whopper that I'm super excited to tell you about, is the Bring and Share Vegan Lunch. Now, part of this idea behind this was literally, we moved from Lyme Regis to here 3 years ago, and we have basically sat on our bums for 3 years working flat out. And I missed my tribe. I missed my Lyme Regis vegan people. When Word Forest did any markets, you know, to take our stuff to market, to sell at events and so on, it was Dorchester Vegan Market, Bridport Vegan Market. And all of our vegan friends were kind of like 3/4 of an hour down the road. So I thought, right, we've got to do something here. So Bring and Share Vegan Lunch is what it says on the tin. You come along to the venue that we have is in the Unitarian Hall in the middle of Sidmouth, and you bring along a dish of something yummy that you have made. If you're not into cooking, you can buy something as long as it's fully plant-based. That's great. And we lay it all out on an enormous 3 tables. We have all sorts. I'm dribbling, literally thinking about the Bring and Share because it's this Saturday, and oh my god, I'm excited. You write out what's in the dish that you've made. We have sweet stuff, savoury stuff. It's great. People come along and they pay £2.50 to come along to that event. They bring their dish and then they sit down to this smorgasbord full of fantastic plant-based food. And obviously we have to hire the hall. So from that £2.50, we have to deduct the hall hire. But we've been doing this since the end of September, and a few other people have, end of December, not September. Yeah, end of December. And a few other people have run a few as well as sort of test pilot stuff, so we could see how they got on with it. It went well. And we have planted how many trees as a result from the profits from it?
147.
Yeah, I think it was.
147 trees have been planted just from the one little vegan Bring and Share lunch in Sidmouth.
Little vegan Bring and Share lunch. So my plea to you is please consider becoming a host of a Bring and Share vegan lunch. Not only will you bring together your tribe, people in your community, and you will also be introducing people that are kind of vegan curious, and actually some omnivores who are going, what's all this fuss about vegan food then? I don't understand it. I don't know what you eat. And they kind of come along and go, okay, this is great food. And they start, these conversations just spark up out of nowhere because everybody that's there, number one, loves vegan food. Number two, gets the need to plant the trees. Number three, they're just really nice people and they want more people to be involved. So I decided to stick this up as a national initiative. And yeah, I'm brave and it's a big ask. But do you know what? Big things start somewhere, and this is kicking off now properly. If you go to wordforest.org/lunch, perfect, you will find out how to combat the climate crisis one vegan dinner plate at a time. And I really do hope you will look at it. There's also a PDF, Tony Pagey thingy, step-by-step guide of how to put one on. I've written everything you need in this document. You can print it off and keep it, and it will give you all the tips and assistance that you require. Plus also, we are here. We're at the end of a phone call. You can give us a ring. I've made assets that you can give me the details of what you're doing. I'll create that and send it back to you, so you can send it out to all of your potential invitees, the people that you want to come along to your event. And the rules are simple. It's got to be £2.50 per entry per person to come in. And if you have any vegan traders that sell, I don't know, sticky buns, cupcakes, or things, stuff, they can come and they can have a table there, and it will cost them £5 plus their £2.50 to come in. Why are we charging money? Because we need to get those trees in the ground, and we can do it, in the most convivial, wonderful way. And I'm not kidding you. We work hard all week, but when we come to the day where we've got the Bring and Share Vegan Lunch, I just get out of bed with such a buzz. It is so exciting because you never know what's going to end up. I'm dribbling on that table.
We rarely know what we're going to cook until about a couple of hours before. We go, what shall we do for today?
Absolutely.
Because there's so many things that you can do.
Absolutely. It's such a lot of fun. So, and then once you've done it, we can create these nice assets and we can send those back to you saying, oh, our event, we raised this amount of money, we just planted this amount of trees. So you've got this lovely loop of support that will continue to feed your people and of course yourself, and of course feed your people and yourself.
And if you send us a picture of your own event,
yes,
then we can shimmy that up and put posters on it and things like that.
Yeah.
So
the intention in the longer term is to have, and Simon is the super geek in the house, I am not, but he has the challenge of creating a nice map of the country. In fact, I say perhaps the world. Why not? Where you can go on and say, I live in wherever I live, and where's my nearest vegan lunch? Where's my nearest Word Forest Bring and Share Vegan Lunch? And you can either join that one or create your own. So I want a nice map with pins in it, and I want to see this country full of pins with great events going on. And of course, I'd like to go to a different one each week. That'd be nice. 4 events in a month, I can squeeze that in. So that is the concept of the Word Forest Bring and Share Vegan Lunch. And I think the last little ones are just basically saying, let us have the last word. Let us have the last words, which
I
are...
did try to stop Tracey making that pun.
I'm so sorry. But basically they are Asante Sana. And if you've ever watched
The Lion King.
The Lion King, you'll know what that means.
Asante Sana, squash banana. Yeah.
It
means thank you very much.
Yeah, it's thanks, yeah.
There is a note.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is a thing that's sort of like our Bring and Share lunch, but it's called the Coffee Morning, run by a charity.
Yeah, so there is a very special and very important charity that run a coffee morning. I'm not going to name it. It won't be hard for you to work it out. And last year they raised £18,050,000 from an event that certainly wouldn't have exclusively served vegan food and drinks. I want to have a slice of that pie, basically. If we got that money, I mean,
We'll have a slice of the vegan pie.
Yeah, obviously that pie. Oh yeah, the good pie.
Yeah.
That would have been 45,125,000 trees. I can't even do the maths on that for how much carbon that would have locked down. Each tree locks in about 1/4 of a ton of CO2 in about 5 to 7 years. That's a considerable dent in our climate crisis. So help me take a nibble out of that by putting on something just vegan. That would be absolutely awesome. And I think we're at the last one. I did a nice one for the last one. I did the slides. Thank you. Thank you for inviting us, London vegans. Environmentalist. Look at that. Vegan for animals and earth, because that's what we are. We might be just for the animals. It might be just for the climate, but ultimately it's vegan for the animals and the earth. It just is. And for life everywhere. I think that's the last slide. What's the last one? Oh yeah, keep eating those cheeky chickpeas. Contact us. There's our details. Ching. I'm done.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Should we stop sharing now, and then you can ask us anything you like?
Thank you. I just say if there is any question, I mean, it's a really comprehensive presentation, but if anybody has any questions, so you can just raise your hand or post them. I don't know if there's anything coming through. Because we're a little bit down on numbers, maybe because of the warm weather. Then Martin, you've got your hand up. Let me just see if I can unmute you, or can you unmute yourself?
There we are.
Yeah.
Hello, that was fantastic, and I love your enthusiasm. It's wonderful. And in the video as well, all those happy children running out of the school, it just brings joy to the heart to see that. I just wanted to ask you about funding. So how do you manage to fund all this?
With difficulty. We do most things that charities do, apart from we won't run any gambling things.
No.
So we won't do lotteries.
We have
But
a
we've
moral
sold-
compass. We have a
Yeah.
moral compass. No raffles and no gambling. Yeah.
But we sell some bits and pieces. We currently only sell online T-shirts, which are organic cotton.
Thank you.
Yeah, and hoodies and things of that nature. They're all produced on demand. We have a core of wonderful donors who donate regularly. We have some corporate partners, some of whom give us a small amount of money for every product that they sell.
Yes, in fact, can I on that note say we do have one fantastic corporate partner who makes food, does some meaty things, some veggie things, and is doing a far larger group of vegan things.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit of money for each of those vegan things that are sold. And that is just beautiful. So we're all over their branding, and it's wonderful to work with them. And they are really looking at the power of the vegan pound, which is
because we're not
growing.
on the BBC, we can say it's Fat Pasty,
Oh, yeah.
the PH.
PHAT.
And they do wonderful vegan pasties and Mexican bean rolls.
Yeah, Fat Pasty.
So we do all of those.
Look them up.
The big problem, of course, is that the whole world is suffering from financial setback, and our funds are depleted. They have been. There's also been some fun with the Kenyan currency, where in the last few months, it's costing us 20% more to send the same amount of money to Kenya as it did sort of December, January time. So it's much more expensive to pay for things.
It is. My thoughts are, I am not going to reach out to private individuals who are already struggling greatly. I'm a very low earner. Simon's retired. I have no nest egg. We did say we were second time arounders. There is no nest egg. It went, but we got our sanity, which was great. But I absolutely understand and appreciate low earner. I really do. So I'm not going to put pressure on people to put their hands in their pocket and give us money. I'm looking for corporates. We've been looking for government grants. Over the last year, we've scored 0 on government grants. Not just government grants, but grants per se. They are incredibly hard to get. And no one is
because there are so many more charities all going for the same pots of money.
And no one is putting enough emphasis on the need to get the trees in the ground in Kenya. They're not realizing the massive potential that is there. Yeah. So, but
are you able to tap into any money to get the schools built? I mean, are the Kenyan government supportive?
No, the Kenyan government, they say a lot of words. They passed a bill in 2012 saying that every Kenyan's entitled to a full education. And then did nothing about it because they got the press that said, oh, they've got a nice education bill.
To be fair, though, Simon, lots of governments around the world say, yeah, we're going to build more schools. Yeah, we're going to build more hospitals, and then don't do it. So that's not singling out the Kenyan government. But...
I think we're doing that here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple of questions that have come in the chat. So one says, can you please tell us about your volunteering opportunities? I'm not sure if they mean in England or overseas, but...
So our volunteer.
So can I take the overseas one? Yeah. We don't generally do any volunteering work overseas, simply because if we go over there and let's say somebody said we want to help build a school, we're actually taking a job away from a Kenyan. We'd rather pay the Kenyan because there's plenty of them around who've got the skills,
and also
but they don't have the money to buy the materials.
Quite, because we're really remote in the areas that we work. We would not want them over there on their own. We would want to be there. It's actually quite complex being in the middle of the bush, in the middle of nowhere. So I wouldn't want anyone to be there without us. We go to Kenya once a year. and that's to perform vital monitoring and evaluation assessments, and to obviously see our team and connect with our team. But we fly. That's basically it. That's all we do.
The donations that are given to plant trees.
No, we do ring fenced.
We find the money from other people who say, "I will pay for you to go to Kenya."
If any of you give us £2.50, I can guarantee that in probably about another 2 months, when our lovely 110,000 saplings that are on the go are ready, that will plant a tree for you. That I can put my hand on my heart and say that will happen. We don't use things for other things.
However, volunteering in the UK, the big volunteering thing you can do is put on a vegan bring and share lunch.
I mean, it really is. That is the best thing you could do. Or do a fundraiser for us of some kind. Do a sponsored sit in a bath full of beans. Might be interesting, or chickpeas. Do something that's kind of plant-based-y. I mean, why not? You know, run a marathon, do a swim. The problem with things like that is, as Simon and I found out when we were geared up to swim a mile across the Thames, across Lake Windermere. I had previously swum a mile across the Thames and Lake Windermere. It is susceptible to the climate crisis. So we trained for a long time. We did some lovely little podcasts on our podcast channel and our social media, and we got up to Lake Windermere, and the tail end of Cyclone Alex whooped Lake Windermere into basically what was deemed a washing machine, and cancelled thousands of people's swims on the Saturday. So it didn't take place. And that was a complete nightmare. So doing mass events out in the open is challenging. Doing a bring and share big lunch inside in a room is easy.
Can I just say, there appears to be a young man called Jonathan with his hand up.
Yes.
And I've been thinking we need to say, Jonathan, if you have a question.
Unmute yourself, please, John.
Unmuted, I think. Yeah, super. Right. Two things I was going to say. One is we have every now and then we have London Vegans meals in a restaurant. Maybe next time we have a London Vegans meal in a restaurant, we can include it, give a £2.50 donation to Word Forest.
That would be
so
lovely.
I hope Brian heard that. I hope Brian heard that. Yeah, I'd certainly recommend that. And the other question is, in the video, the Kenyans look so fit and healthy and strong. I was wondering, do they have much dairy in their diet?
No,
that's what I suspected.
Just
shows you don't need dairy to get a big, strong body.
When you're in a mud hut in the middle of the bush, in the middle of nowhere, there's no fridge. There's no ability to store anything if you did want to. You know, we have no trouble going over and being vegan in Kenya. In fact, my one indulgence when we go to Kenya is I generally go to the supermarket, buy the biggest pot of peanut butter, so I can get a really good dollop of peanut butter in the morning. That is like my favorite thing, to just lick that off of a spoon to give me a bit of energy. But of course, we're eating nuts, loads of vegetables all day.
I do have to just add a tiny little story. For our very first visit, we've been vegan for probably about 4 years at the time. And I managed to get a WhatsApp phone call to the guy that we were going to meet with, a man called Alex Katana, who lives in the jungle. He lives in the bush. And I said, Alex, I needed to talk to you because we don't eat any animal products. We don't want you slaughtering goats for us or anything like that. No animal products.
Which would be quite common.
And his response was so predictable. He said, where do you get your protein? And it's a guy who lives in deepest, darkest Africa.
Honestly.
And he has still got the idea that you can only get protein from animal sources.
Which is where the
Can I just add something there if I'm not
changing it? Yeah.
If I'm still not muted.
Yeah.
See this peanut butter here? I don't know if you can see it close enough. It does say Africa's finest. Africa's finest peanut butter. You see it there? Yeah, it's very good peanut butter from Africa.
Hold on a second. Let me add the spotlight. Okay, what were you showing?
Africa's finest. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Peanut butter, Africa's finest. I recommend it. It's very, very nice. Very, very nice, and it's got no added sugar as well.
Good.
And no palm oil, I'm quite certain. It's just a good clanky old butter. Lush.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Someone was asking about the 100 recipe that you mentioned, which was from the organisation. It says, do you sell that? Is that available?
No, it's not copyright
No,
us. It's copyright this other organisation.
It is. It's copyright this organisation.
They've
However,
given it to us for free to share amongst the Kenyans.
they have, and I'm sure that I could ask them if it was okay to share on, and we could do it for a donation. So yes, that's possible. But the other thing that I've done is with our Bring and Share vegan lunch, I have said we are going to create a cookbook. We are going to create a cookbook. So I've got a volunteer, hopefully going to be helping me to compile one. And again, once we've got this happening across the country, and I have no doubt it will happen, I have wished it of the universe. It needs to happen. We could have an amazing Bring and Share vegan cookbook, and that would be really terrific. So yeah, all those ideas are on the table waiting to be breathed into life.
Excellent, excellent. I think that was all the questions. I only had one question. I've got a few, but I haven't got time for loads of them. Do you have a background in horticulture or something? Because I just wonder why you. For me, the thought of just planting a tree, I wouldn't know where to start. So,
me, as I said, born in the East End, I lived on what went on to be called a sink estate. So a very, very rough old area. Moved out to Essex as a little bit more rural when I was kind of 12. Parents never grew anything. My mum and dad and nan and granddad never taught me how to grow anything other than mold on old cheese, because of course, you know, we were brought up on all the usual things. My desire to learn about how to grow and feed my children really good things came when my kids were born, and I just decided to get out in the garden and grow some stuff that had no chemicals on it. I really wanted to kind of make that transition to just being a bit more self-sufficient. I mean, we're not Tom and Barbara by any stretch of the image, but we just try, and we've got some great stuff growing out in the garden this year. We pulled a blooming beetroot out the ground. I'm not kidding you. The other day, it was that big. It weighed 500 grams. So, you know, I'm just learning. We're just learning as we go, but it's about learning that information and facilitating the education to the others. But yeah, we do what we can.
But we also believe that one of the easiest ways to do things is to gather clever people around you.
Right.
And there are plenty of people in Kenya who know exactly what needs to be done.
They sure do.
They just can't get enough people to do it. So we fund that.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I just one final question from Paul. I think it was Paul who told me about you. So, Paul.
Yes, hello, and apologies to you, Tracey and Simon, for sort of landing you in it.
Not at all.
Anyway, I just wondered if your work is exclusively in Kenya. Do you know about the organisation Tree Aid, which are quite a large charity? They're based in Bristol. I wonder if there's any possibility to sort of collaborate with them, or do they not meet your sort of principles? They seem to be pretty much vegetarian in the choice of projects, but no, not specifically vegan. But it's also tree planting in mainly, it seems, the Sahel region of Africa.
Yeah.
So we do plant just in Kenya at the moment. Kenya has less than 10% canopy cover. So in terms of finding space to plant, finding areas to plant, we've got absolutely no problems there whatsoever. My dream, I was actually writing, I'm being interviewed for a vegan magazine, and I was writing up this very question earlier, saying my dream would be to be able to say we've done Kenya, and we're crossing the borders and we're going into Uganda or Tanzania, because I must get, I don't know, 10, 12 requests a month to say, please come and bring this initiative to our country, somewhere else in and around Kenya.
Particularly Uganda and
Tanzania. Because
and
they're all suffering in the same way, and they just need that knowledge unlocked, and it's a simple process. Our blueprint for life really does work. But
as for working with other charities,
yes,
it's insanely difficult, because we wouldn't be allowed to give our money because of our charity constitution to another charity. We have to give it to the people in Kenya.
Yeah,
that's what it says. And most charities have those kind of constitutions, unless they're set up to be a grant giving body to other charities. which we are not. And I doubt very much that the Bristol Tree Aid is set up like that.
And as we've said, it has been notoriously challenging to get any money out of the grant system. We've just had no luck at all over the last 12, 13, 14 months, I think. So for us, we've got the teams, we've got thousands of people that we've worked with over the last 8 years, thousands. And we have the ability, we know what to do, we just need more money through the door. So that's what we need to focus on. And then we can scale up the operation and just make more things happen. But if anyone has any thoughts or ideas or some pointers and signposting, email us, send us some ideas, send us some steering, and we'll try and get to look at it and see. But we are a really tiny team. We are a very, very small, compact, but perfectly formed team doing the best we really can. So thank you for any ideas you can point our way.
And thank you, Nicole, for your comment on the protein being a colonial idea. Yeah. Absolutely. Kenya was a British colony until 1964.
Indeed, yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you ever so much. I mean, that's all you said. You've got wonderful enthusiasm and passion in what you're doing, and hopefully you'll go to more trees are planted, more work that you're going to be doing out there. It's really great what you're doing. Let me just see if I can ask people to unmute. I'll just say a big thank you. If people would like to share a round of applause for Tracey and Simon. Thank you.
Thank you
for talking to us tonight.
And thank you from New York.
You're welcome.